My husband mocked me in front of his mistress, so I let her watch me serve him divorce papers. Please stay with me as I tell my story, and please, do not forget to support our channel by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and sharing your loved one. Your support means the world to us. Now to our story. Pak. He smirked at me while she laughed, and for the first time, I didn't cry I planned. The restaurant was dimly lit, soft jazz humming in the background. I wasn't supposed to be there. He told me he had a late meeting, but something inside me whispered otherwise. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way he didn't kiss me goodbye like he used to. So I went. I saw them before they saw me, his hand resting over hers on the table, her eyes lit up with excitement, his face glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. I stood frozen, hidden behind a pillar, watching my own husband lean in to whisper something that made her giggle like a teenager. I could have left. I could have walked away and cried in my car like any good wife who had just seen her marriage die in a matter of seconds. But I didn't. Instead, I walked right up to their table, heels clicking against the polished floor like slow bullets. He looked up. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "Oh," she said softly, "I didn't know you'd be joining us." My husband laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a mean one. He leaned back in his chair like he was settling in for a show. "She likes to check up on me," he said, glancing at her. "Thinks I'm still worth chasing." I felt the sting of his words like cold wind across raw skin. People at nearby tables started to look over, sensing the tension. My hands trembled, but I forced them to stay at my sides. I stood tall. He chuckled again. Maybe she dressed up for us. They laughed together. Like it was a joke only the two of them understood. Something shifted in me right then. I wasn't humiliated. I was finished. I took one long breath, stepped forward, and smiled. A real smile. Not the kind I had been faking for months just to keep peace. This was different, quiet, and full of something sharp. "Don't let me interrupt," I said calmly. "I was just here for the food. But it seems I've already been served everything I need." I turned without another word, leaving their laughter behind me. But this time it wasn't their laughter that echoed in my mind. It was the sound of my own footsteps walking away, steady and certain. They thought they had broken me. They had no idea they had just started a war. We were that couple people said looked meant to be. Met in college, fell fast, and married within 2 years. Our wedding was small but perfect. Just us, family, and 1,000 dreams stacked on top of each other. We talked about growing old together, raising kids, building a home filled with warmth and laughter. And for a while, it felt real. He used to leave little notes in my lunch. Call me during the day just to say hi. Every night, he'd pull me close and whisper that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I believed him. I let myself believe that we were safe. That love, once strong enough, could never rot from the inside. But it did. Slowly, quietly, like a leak you don't notice until the whole floor is soaked. It started with late nights. "Work's crazy right now," he'd say, coming home after I'd already fallen asleep. Then it became weekend. Emails. Phone calls he took in another room. At first, I told myself it was normal. Every couple goes through this. Then came the passwords. He changed his phone lock screen, logged out of his laptop before setting it down. I noticed, but didn't ask. Didn't want to seem insecure. After all, he hadn't given me a reason not to trust him, or so I told myself. Our conversations turned shallow. Dinner became silent. Eye contact disappeared. It was like sleeping beside a stranger. When I tried to talk about it, he'd brush it off, say I was overthinking, dramatic, needy. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. So I doubled down, made his favorite meals, dressed the way he used to like, left little notes in his lunchbox. He never mentioned them. Looking back now, I see it clearly. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a slow erasure, like he was carefully scrubbing away the us and replacing it with something I couldn't recognize. I didn't just lose a husband. I lost the version of myself that believed I was loved. And the manipulation? That was the worst part. The way he twisted things. How he'd turn his coldness into my fault. "You're imagining things. You're too sensitive. You're not fun anymore." I started to believe those lines, repeating them in my head like mantra. But the truth was simpler. He had already checked out. He just didn't have the decency to tell me. He let me stay, wondering what I had done wrong, while he was off living a second life. And that's how we got here. Not just from love to betrayal, but from hope to silence. From us to nothing. Her name was Lauren. She was just a friend, he said. A coworker who helped with presentations, grabbed coffee during meetings, sent him memes on Instagram. I remember the first time I met her. Tall, polished, overly sweet. She gave me a hug and complimented my earrings. Something about her felt rehearsed. But I ignored it. Why wouldn't I? He told me she was harmless, even rolled his eyes when I asked how often they worked late together. "Come on," he said. "You really think I'd cheat with her?" I laughed along, like I wasn't swallowing something bitter. Weeks passed, then months. Lauren started showing up in conversations more often. Lauren said this, Lauren thinks that. I told myself not to be jealous. We were adults. We trusted each other. Until I found the receipt. It was for a hotel 2 cities away, dated the weekend he'd claimed he was at a conference. My heart pounded as I scanned the bill. 2 guests, champagne ordered to the room, breakfast for 2. I sat on the edge of our bed holding that slip of paper, trying to steady my breath. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I became quiet, watchful. I checked his social media and saw the same photos she posted: sunsets, wine glasses, vague quotes. Things she claimed were just from her personal life. I noticed they lined up too well with his schedule. Too many coincidences. Then came the messages. One night, he left his tablet open. He never used to. And there it was, a trail of DMs that started friendly and ended with kisses, hotel bookings, and whispered promises of someday. The final blow came when I found out he lied about our miscarriage. A year earlier, I had lost a pregnancy. It was early, but it broke me. He'd told me he had to leave town that weekend, some work emergency. He came back, acted concerned, held me while I cried. I believed him. But then I saw the date in one of Lauren's posts. Him in a beach chair, sunglasses on, a glass of wine in hand. The timestamp? The same weekend I had bled alone in a bathroom, thinking he was in meetings. That was the moment something inside me snapped. But I didn't scream. I didn't throw his things out or confront him in rage. I smiled, kissed him goodnight, asked about his day. And I documented everything. Screenshots, copies of emails, photos of receipts. I opened a private folder, encrypted and backed up. I played the part of the clueless wife while preparing to be anything but. She thought she had won, that I was too naive to see the web. But I was quietly following every thread, and I planned to burn it all down. I stopped asking where he was. No more late-night calls. No more checking if he'd be home for dinner. I let him drift deeper into his lies, thinking I was too blind to notice. But I was busy. I met with a lawyer during my lunch breaks. I opened a new bank account in a different name. I started moving small amounts, just enough not to raise suspicion. I made copies of everything: tax records, insurance policies, mortgage details. I learned where every dollar went and where I could take it. I was no longer the woman crying on the bathroom. Something had shifted. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt clear, like fog had been lifted and I could finally see what needed to be done. All the emotion drained out, leaving only quiet resolve. My heart didn't race when he lied. My hands didn't shake when I saw his phone light up with her name. I felt still. I changed my passwords, put my name on things that mattered, set alerts on every shared account. I started tracking, not reacting. I was playing chess now, not chasing after someone who had already left. People noticed. Friends asked if I was okay. They said I seemed different, quieter, more still. I smiled and said I was just tired. That work had been stressful, that I was focusing on myself for once. None of it was a lie. At night, I read books on divorce, property laws, custody. Even though we didn't have children, I wasn't leaving anything to chance. I was learning what women wish they had known sooner. He was too wrapped up in his fantasy to notice. He came home smelling like cologne I didn't wear and acted like he'd been working. I made him coffee. I folded his shirts. I nodded while he spoke about meetings that never happened. And every time he left, I took another step forward. I bought a burner phone and stored my legal updates. I backed up everything in the cloud. I even installed a camera near the door, not to catch him, but to prove he hadn't been around when things finally fell apart. I said less. I smiled more. He thought it meant he'd won. But really, it meant I was done playing the part. The woman he thought was too weak to leave had disappeared. What stood in her place was someone far more dangerous. A woman who had nothing left to lose, and everything to reclaim. He got sloppy. Or maybe he just stopped caring. At first, he hid things. Now he flaunted them. Lauren started appearing more and more, at parties, group dinners, even casual hangouts with mutual friends. He never introduced her as my mistress, of course. No, she was a colleague, a good friend, just someone from work. But the smirks, the body language, the stolen glances, they all said the truth out loud. He knew I saw it. He wanted me to. At home, the cruelty was subtle but constant. If I asked a question, he'd sigh like I was exhausting. If I voiced hurt, he'd twist it back on me. You're imagining things. You're too emotional. This is why I can't talk to you. He started blaming me for his unhappiness, his distance, even his cheating. You stop trying, he'd say. You're always so cold. As if I had pushed him into another woman's arms with my lack of sparkle. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was how convincing he made them sound. I began to feel like maybe I had done something wrong. Maybe I had let us fall apart. But every time those thoughts crept in, I reminded myself of the messages, the receipts, the photo of them sipping wine while I sat home thinking he was working. Then came the family gathering. His cousin was getting married, and we were both invited. I thought maybe he'd try, just for one night, to pretend we were still a couple. That he'd save face, at least in front of people who once celebrated our vows. He didn't. He brought her. Lauren walked in wearing a dress I'd seen online but never bought because it felt too much. She looked polished, smug, perfectly placed by his side. I stood alone near the drink table, pretending to scroll through my phone, trying not to tremble. When someone asked where I'd been lately, he laughed. "She's been working on herself," he said loudly enough for several people to hear. "Takes a lot of time to stay so bitter." People chuckled nervously. Lauren laughed too. I felt the blood drain from my face. My fingers clenched the stem of the wine glass, the pressure making my knuckles white. No one defended me. No one stepped in. That moment burned itself into my memory. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was open warfare. And he was parading his affair like a trophy while daring me to do something about it. That was my final trigger. I didn't cry. I didn't leave the party early. I stayed. I smiled. I said hello to his family. And when I got home, I set the final plan in motion. Because this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. The night after the wedding reception, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the flickering candle I'd lit more out of habit than peace. My heart didn't race. It was calm, focused. That was the night I realized I wasn't trying to save anything anymore. I was planning an exit, not just from a marriage, but from a war I never agreed to fight. I booked another meeting with my lawyer. We revised everything, tightened language in the divorce papers, ensured asset division was clean and airtight. I transferred what I could into my own account, which I'd been slowly building in the background. Every move was silent, like footsteps in snow. Next, I rented a small storage unit under my maiden name. I placed my important documents inside: birth certificate, marriage license, saving statements, printed screenshots of messages between him and Lauren. I didn't want any surprises when it came time to leave. Then I hired a private investigator. At first, I thought it might be too much. But after seeing them mock me in front of family, I realized I needed solid proof, something that would stand up in court, if it came to that. The PI delivered fast. Photos of weekend getaways, videos of them entering hotels, even timestamps that matched work hours. That's when I learned something useful. Lauren worked in his department. Same company, same team. And their company had a strict non-fraternization policy, especially when it involved subordinates, which she was. I read the employee handbook online 3 times to be sure. It was all there, clear. Violations could lead to disciplinary action, including termination. So I gathered everything: photos, dates, company messages, even one email where he mentioned her working late on his couch. It wasn't subtle. It didn't need to be. I made an anonymous report to HR with attachments. No names were needed. The evidence spoke loud enough. But I didn't stop there. I emailed his boss directly, from a burner address. No threats. Just a simple note. Your company deserves transparency. What 2 employees do outside of work is their business, unless it violates company policy. Please see attached. The file was titled, Professional Boundaries Breach.pdf. And then I waited. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friend. Secrecy was my weapon now. Silence was strength. He still walked around the house, smug and untouchable. He had no idea I was holding the match and the gasoline. Every cruel word, every quiet tear, every public laugh at my expense. It was all about to be repaid. I wasn't planning revenge for pain. I was planning freedom with precision. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that comes before a storm. He was out, said he had dinner with colleagues. I didn't ask who. I already knew. I'd seen the reservation under her name. 2 people, 1 table, candlelight. I didn't care. I folded my last shirt and placed it into the suitcase. Not rushed, not frantic. Just calm. I moved through the house like someone in a dream. Not numb, but clear. Focused. Every item I packed felt like a small goodbye. Not to things, but to the version of me who thought she had to stay. I had printed the papers that morning. They sat on the kitchen counter, tucked neatly into a manila envelope with his name typed clean across the front. I didn't need to say anything out loud. The words inside would do that for me. The bank app showed my account standing on its own now. Every joint card. Canceled. I'd left just enough in our shared account for him to feel like nothing had changed until tomorrow. The locks would be changed at sunrise. I'd scheduled it already. New keys. New boundaries. I walked from room to room, not looking for anything I'd forgotten, just saying goodbye in my own way. To the living room where we used to laugh. To the hallway where he once kissed me like I was everything. To the mirror that had watched me break, night after night, then watched me put myself back together. I wasn't the same woman who once begged for honesty, who cried over cold dinners and unread messages. She was gone. In her place stood someone sharper, wiser, unbreakable. I caught my reflection as I zipped the suitcase. There was no sadness in my eyes, only fire. The kind that doesn't rage but burns steady and slow. The kind that reshapes whatever it touches. The burner phone buzzed. One final message from my lawyer. Everything was in place. All I had to do was hand over the envelope. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded, listening to the clock tick. Every second sounded like a drum roll. Tomorrow wouldn't just be an ending. It would be a beginning, the kind you earn. He would walk through the door expecting the same silence, the same tired peace I'd given him for years. But he'd find something else. Not a confrontation, not a scream, just the sound of me letting go. Forever. And once that happened, there would be no looking back. I chose the cafe carefully, quiet, neutral, nothing dramatic. Just a small table by the window, late in the afternoon when the place would be almost empty. I texted him the night before. Let's talk. Tomorrow. 4 p.m. Just us. He replied within minutes. Finally. I wore black. Not because I was mourning, but because it felt like armor. My hair was pulled back, clean, sharp. No makeup to hide behind. I didn't need anything extra. I was enough. And I was ready. He arrived late, of course. Always on his time. And he didn't come alone. Lauren followed him in, wearing red lipstick and a smirk. She looked around like she was walking into a game she'd already won. I didn't flinch. He sat across from me without apology. She pulled up a chair beside him. Their confidence filled the space, heavy and smug. You said you wanted to talk, he said, leaning back like he had nothing to lose. I did, I said, placing the envelope on the table between us. Here it is. He blinked. She tilted her head. Slowly, I slid it forward. He opened it. His face didn't move at first, just eyes scanning the first page. Then the second. Then the last. Lauren leaned over to peek. Her smirk faltered. I've filed, I said calmly. The papers are signed. All that's left is your response. He laughed, but there was a crack in it. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being done. Before he could speak, I continued. I've already moved the money. I've already met with the attorney. The house. My name's on it. The accounts? Closed. The locks? Changed this morning. Lauren's face turned a shade paler. Oh, and your company HR has a copy of your texts. Screenshots. Emails. All of it. Policy's clear. Relationships with subordinates are grounds for termination. He froze. She did too. And before you ask, I added, yes. Your boss has seen it. He replied personally. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. A forwarded email subject line read, regarding your concern, thank you for bringing this to our attention. He reached for his coffee, but his hand shook. Lauren looked like she wanted to disappear. I stood. This meeting wasn't to argue, or to explain. It was to deliver the ending you thought I was too weak to write. He didn't speak. Neither did she. I walked out into the sun, the door closing behind me like a chapter ending with a period. No more begging. No more waiting. That was the day I stopped being his wife and started being free. It didn't take long for everything to fall apart, for him at least. A week after our meeting, I got a call from a mutual friend. He'd been let go. Quietly, of course. No big announcement, just an email to the team about staff changes. HR doesn't like messes, but the office always talks, and soon everyone knew why he disappeared. Lauren unfollowed him on social media, then deleted her profiles altogether. Rumor was she'd been reassigned and placed under review. I didn't dig further. I didn't care. I wasn't watching his world collapse out of spite. I just wasn't in it anymore. What surprised me most was the silence. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't fight. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to say. Or maybe for the first time, he realized he had truly lost. I signed a lease for a small apartment not far from downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every corner, every shelf, every soft lamp and quiet evening, I chose it all. I slept in peace. I ate dinner without swallowing anxiety. I joined a gym, not to chase beauty, but to feel strong. I started therapy. At first, I didn't know what to say. Then the words came, slowly, honestly, painfully. I began to untangle the years of manipulation, the erosion of self. I started to remember who I had been before I shrank myself to keep someone else comfortable. I painted again, took weekend hikes, learned to cook for one, and found I liked it better that way. I laughed, not polite social laughter, but real chest-deep joy. It had been a long time. One morning, months later, I saw him. I was walking through the local market, hands full of fresh flowers and warm bread. He was standing near the coffee stand, alone, staring at his phone. His hair was unkempt. He looked older, tired, worn in a way that had nothing to do with age. He looked up and our eyes met. For a second, I saw the flicker of recognition. Then something else, regret, maybe, or the dull ache of consequences finally settling in. I didn't stop. I didn't smile. I walked past him like he was a stranger. Because in every way that mattered, he was. He chose to break me. I chose to become someone he'd never deserve. And in that simple walk, head high, arms full, heart light, I felt it fully for the first time. Freedom. Not just from him, but from the version of me that ever needed him.